the recording. Right. So the topic here is manage and lead resources. Well, as far as human resources are concerned, I do not like to use the word manage. Why? Because human resources cannot be managed, right? They are to be led, they are to be kind of engaged, communicated with. They are not things that we can manage. Yes, of course, all other kinds of resources which are kind of non-living or non-intelligent, yes, of course, we can manage them, we can monitor them, we can control them, but not the human resource. So we deal with the human resource in a different way. We kind of engage them. Anyways, as far as the human resources are concerned, they include the teams and the external contractors we have. So we have to deal with them. Moreover, at the same time, we are also having an eye on the risks. We have already identified the risks. We are processing them. Some risks have happened, and we have applied the risk responses on them. Right now, we in monitoring and control keep an eye on all the risks we have identified, which of the risks have actually occurred, and have any risk response been applied to them? What was the impact? How much money has been spent from the contingency? If there are any more risks due to the things which are happening during the project, like there might be cost overruns, there might be schedule delays or other potential disputes, and you see these things which are happening in the project while it is being executed, they may give rise to further risks. So the process of identification of these new risks as a result of what is happening, we are to identify them, prioritize them, quantify them, and again develop their risk responses while we are keeping an eye on those risks which are already identified. So we will continue this treatment with the risk until the project finishes. So the process of identifying the risk will never finish until the project ends. Then as far as the contracts and subcontractors are concerned, we need to see whether whatever the agreement we have with them, whatever the contract conditions we have with them, we have to keep checking them. Are they still valid? Are they acting according to the contract? Are they behind the schedule, ahead of the schedule? And what are the impacts of those contractual requirements or contracts on our main project? Similarly, there might be a possibility that we change something in our main project, and that may have some effect on one of the contracts. So if that is the case, we will go through the process of contract renegotiation and adjustment of those items into the contract as if we can, sail flawlessly. So conduct checks on contracts, procurement process compliance. Are they complying with whatever is the procurement process? Periodic progress and activity report. Required advance notification and acknowledgement to suppliers. Formal acceptance of contracted deliverables when they deliver their final goods. Then associated matter with the contracts is, once everything is okay and has been accepted, we must notify the account payable of completed work so that the payments can be made. So that should be prompt. That should not be delayed. We have seen that people are very, very concerned about the contract, but when it comes to making the payment, they start relaxing. So that is as important as the contract itself. You have a commitment, and you have to fulfill that, right? So no delays should be there in payment against those contracts. As far as the physical resources are concerned, like the inventory and equipment and materials and facilities and infrastructure, so these are mostly non-human resources. So we can, as I said, we can manage them, we can monitor them, we can control them because they are non-living. Ensures assigned resources are available just in time. I hope you are very well conversant with the concept of JIT. Are you?
Yes.
So you understand that whatever resources are supposed to be available for a job, they should be made available just in time. We don't want to get those resources mobilized months ago, because then the maintenance of those resources, taking care of those resources, does also cost. So we don't want to get involved into extra work. So it is always good. It is a Japanese philosophy, just in time, that saves us from a lot of wastage and expenditure. So ensures assigned resources are available just in time. That is what we can do while we are monitoring and controlling, and released when no longer needed. That is again a very important point. Well, if the job has been done, uh, we cannot leave the resources unaccountable. We should take them into account, and if there is any leftover, or if their equipment has been free from that job, that must be moved to some other project or assignment, right? So release those resources from this project activity. Maybe move it to another activity within the project, but there must be a prompt action as soon as job is done. The remaining resources should be released. Ensure physical resources assigned are available as planned. Just like we said that it should be available just in time. It is just an explanation of that. That if you need 10 bags of cement to start something on a specific date, then they must be assigned beforehand. We should not order them as we just require them. That would not make it just in time, right? So all the process of acquiring those resources and getting them to the site should have happened before the moment that those resources we can start using, before the start date of that activity. Monitors planned and actual utilization of resources. Naturally, just like we monitor anything in our project, so we will take into account the inventory of all our resources. How much have we planned that this should be utilized during this activity, and how much actually have been utilized? Maybe we have utilized more, so we have to put our calculations right, and we have to kind of account for that. But if there are remaining resources, maybe we used less than what we planned, even then we should judiciously be able to appropriate these resources. Performs processes throughout the project. So these processes of physical resource management and human resource management and monitoring and control, they will happen throughout the project until the project ends, right? So we will we'll be taking care of all kinds of resources, whether human or non-human, and this is the job which will only finish with the end of the project. As we just learned that the resources which have been utilized, they may not be same as we planned. So on and off during the monitoring and control process group, wherever we find that our calculation had been wrong and the correct facts have realized, so based on that, we should update our resource allocations and amend our plans accordingly, right? So what has been used to date, what is still needed, review performance usage to date, including monitoring expenditures. You can look at the expenditure and you can find out, well, there was a resource required for which we had to spend certain amount, but we yet not ordered it. So naturally, you have to monitor expenditure. Everything in the project should be well tied up, right? You can't say that, well, it was somebody forgot to order it, right? It should be available just in time. So you can even monitor that by looking at the expenditure report, that which orders have been placed, which have not been placed, where the money has been spent. Identifying and dealing with resource shortages and surplus in a timely manner. Again, it is a matter of synchronity. We must not fall in the trap of resource shortage or surplus, because these things will happen, and as soon as any such event happens, we should immediately take action to correct that. And naturally, if there is a need, we can even work on amending our plans or the calculations. Ensuring resources use and release. Naturally, I've already said that when a resource is to be used. And when it has to be released, when all the work has been done, these resources should immediately be released, whether they are human resources or otherwise. Keep your stakeholders up to date about the issues with relevant resources. If there are any issues, any problems, any impediments in resources, let your stakeholders, at least the key stakeholders, know, who need to know that these resources could not be made available. And ultimately, this is the change we are bringing in the plan. And this is now the new timeline when these resources will be made available. And that's how the thing will move from now on. Influencing factors that can create changes in resource utilization. So we can be proactive, and we can see the problems, we can look at the risks, and we can take some precautionary measures, some proactive measures by which we can handle the situations which could have occurred in resource utilization. Because if we could be cautious, probably we can control the changes in resource utilization. We have to be slightly proactive. We have to keep an eye. Rather, I would say we should keep our eyes open to this fact. Managing changes as they occur promptly. As and when a change occurs, we should immediately orchestrate that change, reverberates through the whole plan. And not only the whole plan is updated accordingly, but all the stakeholders, including the team members responsible for doing that job, everybody should know it, that this is now the amended shape of the plan. This is the new resource utilization plan, and things like that. Changes that impact schedule and cost baseline must be approved. Naturally, those are the baselines, schedule and cost, and therefore, and the third baseline is scope. Any one of these baselines, if there is any impact on them, then it is a official case for a change request. And that means that once these change requests are approved, then plan will have to be amended accordingly. And these changes are handled in predictive projects through a process called perform integrated change control, which occurs in the monitoring and control. And this process is actually responsible for receiving all the change requests and processing them. So that is about updating the resource allocations. Then when we have contracts, we will have disputes in contracts. Naturally, like if we have teams, we may have conflicts in the team. So we are not talking about the team here. We are talking about the contract. And naturally, as the contract goes on, as the work goes on, we will face situations where our agreement on the contractual terms may waver, and we may have a different opinion. Both parties may have a different opinion. That is the time they should sit down and renegotiate the contract, right?
Right.
In a predictive project, all the changes, as I said, are handled by Perform Integrated Change Control. So that is a pretty well-established mechanism. But how do we do it in an agile project, right? Here it says backlog reprioritization. Do you have any understanding how would backlog reprioritization manage the change?
So every backlog, we can really streamline uh, all the upcoming tasks or the user stories.
Mm-hmm. Which backlog am I referring to?
It's the backlog that we have on our boards for the sprint planning.
Hadi?
For the sprint planning.
Well, exactly. And that is called the product backlog, right?
Yeah.
We have got a product backlog. We have got a release backlog, which is kind of optional. And third one is the sprint backlog, right?
Yeah.
Sprint backlog is what we are doing in an iteration, right? Let's forget about the release backlog for now, because release backlog and product backlog acts actually in the same manner, right? Now, product backlog is holding all the requirements of the customer. And because it is agile, customer can change the requirements anytime. They can come up with new requirements. We have to add them. They may amend our old requirement and maybe we have to update that. So they all are lying in the backlog. And as and when new requirements get into, there is no change request mechanism. There is no change control here in Agile. Customer can simply tell that, okay, I don't need this. I need this. Or they may amend it, or they may come up with a new requirement. We will have to accommodate that. So what we'll do, we'll put that new requirement or change requirement into the product backlog and ask the customer again, how do you want to prioritize it? How important this new requirement is, right? So we will try to put it in the stack of prioritized backlog items which are already there, and we'll fit those new items in that stack. We'll move them up or down wherever their priority is. And that's how, just by moving new requirements within a product, in a backlog according to their level of prioritization, we have actually addressed the change. I hope you understand my point.
Yes, I do.
So for contract disputes, consult your organizational process assets, previous documents, previous lesson learned, previous files of the contracts, what has happened, and the contractual agreement first. Naturally, OPAs are a secondary reference, but the primary reference which you are supposed to follow with your contractor is the contract agreement itself. So first look in the contract agreement, what should be done, and if there is a conflicting situation, let us look at some old records, old data, and see what have we done in these kinds of situations earlier, in earlier contract. So that would help us to handle change in our contract disputes. But the basic thing is, which I have already talked a lot about, is gaining a consensus, right? Gaining a consensus is our priority. And in Agile, this consensus building is really very important because there is no change control mechanism as such, right? So generally, we will respect whatever the customer says, but naturally, the product owner is in charge of the product. He can have a little bit of discussion,
Okay, I just have
consensus.
to, get the door. Just give me 5 minutes.
Sure,
Sorry
sure.
for that. Okay, thanks.
So the main point here was that we in agile projects we will rely on our backlog reprioritization that will solve the problem. So this is not a complicated mechanism. It is pretty simple. It is not rigid, not like unlike a predictive project. This is pretty simple. The only thing we emphasize is to gain consensus with our stakeholders, with our contractors, with everyone. Quality management. Naturally, we do understand there are some quality requirements related to the product which have been asked by the customer. On top of that, we also have a quality policy which our organization follows. So we are supposed to be following that quality policy, abiding by that, because we are part of the organization, and we just can't say that because customer did not ask for this high a quality, so why should we provide him this quality? So that is a policy of the organization. Our organization takes pride that we can attain a certain level of quality, which is definitely supposed to be attained, whether the customer wants it or not. But at the same time, customer needs are fulfilled, and also then the organizational needs are fulfilled as far as the quality is concerned. So assess the quality of the project approaches and the activities that would be governed through quality assurance. Then as far as the deliverable is concerned, evaluate deliverable quality through inspections and testing. Let me deliberate a little bit on it. We have two types of quality to look at. One is the process quality, which is about the work, and the other is the product quality, which is about the deliverable itself, right? What functions and features should be in the deliverable. So naturally, to check the product quality, we need to inspect the product or test the product. So the physical quality is inspected or tested, and the process through which we do that is called quality control. You agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that.
What about the process quality or the project quality, like the quality of the project approaches, quality quality of the way of working, quality of how your team is physically working, are they working well or what? How do you check that?
It's quality assurance. One is quality control. If we talk about the product, the other we're checking the process quality. It should be quality assurance. Am I right?
It is quality assurance, definitely. But
Okay.
what are the tools? Like, we could control the quality through inspections and testing. So what do we do in quality assurance?
Really check the process. How strong is the process? I can give the example in compliance.
Okay.
For example, we do control assurance testing.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe a simple testing related to the process that
Mm-hmm.
if it is viable enough or not. So
Okay, good. That is actually called quality audits. Quality audits are conducted for process quality or the project quality.
but
And
a question here.
yeah,
So quality audits, they should be conducted by audits, right? Because then the one I'm talking about, quality insurance, was just conducted by a person, or I can say the local compliance officer. Maybe it's a right word.
mm-hmm,
Local
mm-hmm,
compliance officer, local compliance contact, or a person who is part of risk or governance.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, in at least in financial industry, that was the
I
case.
agree with that. But you see, these testings, these inspections, these audits, they could be at any level. There could
Yeah.
be, they all could be internal and they all could be external as well, right? For example, within the project, the quality assurance is the responsibility of project manager. Agreed? So
Agreed.
project manager gathers up a quality team and asks them to keep auditing the processes. That is an internal matter, and this is an internal audit. On the other hand, because our organization has a quality policy and they want to keep an eye on every project and operation in the organization, so maybe sending organizational quality teams to audit overall work of the project. Similarly, when ISO people come and they want to inspect the whole organization, they also may come in and check the quality of the processes within the project, within the organization. So there are various levels of audits. But the audit, what I am concerned about right now, is within the project manager's responsibility, and the quality assurance at that level is done through quality audits. And how do you do that? Well, I'm sure you should be doing that already. Like you see, you find say you are producing Coca-Cola, and Coca-Cola is to be packaged into, it has to be bottled, has to be packaged, and has to be loaded in trucks and all that. That is a final product. That truck is fully loaded with the crates of Coca-Cola, right? And there is a process for, bottling, process for packing, process for, you know, loading and whatever. You see that one of the processes, for example, the bottling is having some kind of problem. You feel that bottling is slow, and you dig down what is the problem. So naturally, the person responsible for doing that job can keep an eye on that. But the auditor, when he comes down, he would say, okay, show me your processes, how they are happening. Why are you doing this? Why are you not doing that? Right? That is one way of conducting the audit. On the other hand, maybe there is an external audit from the project. Maybe ISO people have come. They will look at the policy of the organization, and they will generically look at your project processes generically. Are these processes properly documented or not? Are they following? All the players know what to do or not? And if they are doing it, are they doing it right or not? So they can audit that kind of thing, right? Now, as far as that inspection and testing is concerned, naturally that can only relate to the deliverable. Whenever a deliverable or part of a deliverable is created, we are supposed to inspect it. For example, this Coca-Cola bottle, when the bottle was manufactured, before accepting that bottle into the stock, we should inspect that for the quality of the bottle. The caps of the bottle must also be inspected. And if there is anything wrong, we should send it back and get it corrected. When the bottles are being filled, we have to look at the quality, how accurately, how much liquid has to be filled into it to the level of precision which has been described, right? You see,
Right.
when you buy Coca-Cola bottles, you will find that they are all equally loaded. You can put 10 bottles together, they will all be of the same level. That
Right.
is the level of quality, right? Anyways, this and maybe when the label of the Coca-Cola is printed, then it is checked. So quality control is happening through testing and inspection, and until the end product is also inspected and ultimately handed over. So evaluate quality of project activities, that is quality assurance and processes, which is done through reviews and audits. So we had inspection and testing for quality control and reviews and audits for quality assurance.
Assurance. Okay.
Focus on detecting and preventing errors and defects. Now, how can we do that? How can you focus on detecting and preventing errors and defects? Naturally, by being proactive and by being cautious, right? But understand that output of the quality control is the most important input into quality assurance. Do you understand my point?
Yeah.
How the output of quality control is so important for quality assurance, because that tells us what has gone wrong with the product. And that is a news We don't have to be proactive about it. We now have some reaction to it. We say, oh, the label was printed wrongly and it has reached the hands of the customer, or it was caught in the testing. Why we did not check it? So there is the problem with the quality assurance. That how is it possible that the processes were not right and wrong label was caught in the quality control, right?
Right.
Quality assurance people are not responsible for the label. They're responsible for the process of print label, right? So they will look into
Yeah.
that process and find why this fault has occurred and they can correct it. So that is exactly the point. Focus on detecting and preventing errors and defects. If you can fix the problem, fix the process right here, those defects will stop coming. So that is all about the guidelines on quality management. For a predictive project, we look at it slightly differently. Naturally, project manager uses quality control processes as if to verify the deliverable. Naturally, quality control has to do with the deliverable itself. Okay, let me tell one more thing. As far as the deliverable of the project is concerned, no matter it's the end product or it is an interim product or whatever it is, but as you understand, quality control will deal with the deliverable or the product only, right? As far as the deliverable is concerned, that goes through two different inspections. First inspection is the quality inspection, which is done by the quality control people. And when they verify that, okay, this product is okay from the quality point of view, still that product may not be ready to be handed over to the customer. We have to do one more inspection, which is not related to quality, and that is related to the scope. Is what we are trying to deliver to the customer, is it exactly according to the scope given to us? Right? So the quality control, when it was done, it has verified the deliverable from the quality point of view. Now, it will have to pass through another inspection that would be for the verification of the deliverable from the scope purposes. And remember, when a product has been validated, verification is quality and validation is when the product is according to the scope and it has been tested. Only then, after validation, we can hand over the product to the customer, right? Okay.
Right.
In some some of the organizations, they are unable to differentiate between the verification and validation of the product, and generally most of the organizations consider this all as a quality process. They just call it quality control, but there is a clear division between the verification of the product and the validation of the product. I hope you understand my point.
Yes.
But PMI says that we don't mind if you do both of these processes together. That is fine with us. But understand that they are two separate jobs which you have clubbed together. There should not be a misunderstanding that there is no role of validation, because what we think is, we think scope is within the quality. Scope is not within the quality. Quality is about the control, right? And scope is about the validation. So control gives us verified product and scope gives us validated product. And validated product is the only thing which can be ultimately handed over to the customer. Anyways, I wanted to just show you that thing. And one more thing, do you understand the difference between functional and non-functional requirements?
No.
Okay, every deliverable has some function to do, right? So
Right.
scope basically looks at the functional requirement. what should this product be capable of doing? What should be the characteristics of this product, right? The length of the product, the width of the product, the color of the product, the height of the product, the whatever characteristic. These are all functional requirements. Now, beside functional requirements, we have certain non-functional requirements, right? It should also comply with the quality of the organization. It should also comply with the environmental policy. It should also comply with the safety and security policy and things like that. So those associated things, which all also have to be verified, are non-functional. Now, I'm going to tell you a very strange thing. We usually think that the length of a product, which is a characteristic of a product, is basically quality. Is it correct? If a product is supposed to be of, say, 2 feet length, then is it the quality requirement? Is it a functional or non-functional?
Can you repeat the question?
There is a product. There are many dimensions to it. One dimension is its length. The length of that product is 2 feet.
Okay.
Right? So,
right.
Is it the quality requirement?
If it is specified in the quality, then it should be the functional quality of that product.
It should be functional. Yes, you are very right. Yeah. This is the functional requirement. Now, when you measure it, how do you do that with quality? How do you assure quality in measuring 2 feet length?
By looking at the product and result.
How do you do that?
With the help of a scale or tool.
But okay, scale. What is the scale going to tell you?
If the length is right or not.
Right or not, right? Okay. Tell me, have you agreed with the customer what scale are you going to be using?
Yeah, it should be already specified.
This is very important. The metrics for quality must be decided beforehand. And basically, this length of the product is not quality. Quality is to the level of accuracy and precision. It is being measured. And that accuracy and precision must be agreed with the customer in the contract, right? Normally, customer is unable to provide you that level of accuracy or that level of detail. They only tell you it should be 2 feet long, right? And you say, okay, I developed it, I created it, and this is 2 feet long. But his scale and your scale are not exactly alike. You are looking at a accuracy level of, say, 1 millimeter plus and minus. So 1 meter plus or 1 millimeter minus than 2 feet is all right with you. But your customer is looking at 0.001 millimeter plus minus. So you are not on the same page. You are using the same scale, but the level of accuracy in mind is different. So it should have been decided beforehand. This tolerance, which is acceptable by the customer in the dimension, is actually what quality stands for. Quality is about the tolerance. It is not about the length, because length is a functional. You yourself said that is a functional requirement. Tolerance is a non-functional requirement, right? And in a way, I should say that tolerance is a quality requirement.
Right.
And also, every functional requirement may have a non-functional quality tolerance attached to it. For example, the color of that product is supposed to be yellow. Now, have you decided what shade of yellow should it be? No.
No.
If we don't do that, then probably we can't know the tolerance. So, while we are agreeing on the requirement, we should show a color palette of yellow to the customer and ask him to select the right color. And then we should ask him, okay, will it be all right if it is one shade off on the positive side and one shade off on the negative side? If a customer agrees, yes, they look alike to me, then you say, okay, then this is final. We will be delivering you the goods with these either of these three shades, right? And if we slip that, we move towards a harder or a lighter color, then probably you may reject it. Simple as that. So that is very important that we define quality properly. Anyway, then you verify the alignment with the compliance requirements, like I said, safety, security, organizational quality, and other things, environment, and whatever. Give feedback on an identified variances. If there is any variance, any difference, any anything which is not exactly accordance to the tolerance limit, and we are not being able to produce the things according to that tolerance, that is called variance. How much are we in variance in quality? So we were supposed to deliver out of the three shades, we could this could be accepted, but we are consistently giving a shade on the plus side, right? So that is why it is being rejected. So give feedback on identified variances, and naturally that feedback will help us recover from that problem. Identify potential approaches to cure defect and other non-compliances, and continuously monitor quality reports and recommendations. That is how we do the predictive projects. How do we do the agile project? So here, all the decisions, because we said team is self-organizing and they are T-shaped people. So the best experts are in the team, and they have all the power to decide and do anything. So whatever user stories they are undertaking in a sprint, they are totally responsible for the quality of those user stories, and they are supposed to make their own decisions, right? So team, customer, and product owner are responsible for setting and meeting the quality goals and metrics, right? Team is important here. But you see, naturally, product owner owns the product, so he is also involved. Customer will finally accept, so that is also involved. Feedback from iteration, continuously monitor quality. So at the end of an iteration, we learn how well we perform as far as the quality is concerned. Maybe we had a lot of rejections in the user stories due to our poor quality. So we say, okay, this time out of the 10 stories, we could deliver 5. 5 were rejected due to quality. So we sit down in a retrospective meeting and we decide what went wrong and what went right. And ultimately, we decide to improve on those areas in the very next sprint, in the very next iteration. So you don't have to worry about items which have been rejected, because they will be revisited. In the next iteration, we may be doing them again. But this time, we will have better mindset as far as the quality is concerned, and we will not be committing those mistakes. And if with every iteration, we keep improving, enhancing, and continuously growing. So feedback from iteration, continuously monitor the quality. So you see how simple it is. As compared to the predictive project, agile is a child's play. It is so easy to do, right? If something is going wrong, let it go wrong. Let it be rejected. We will learn the lesson and apply immediately in the next iteration. That is a simple game plan, right? It's not that, okay, there is a change request, go back, do it again. No, nothing like that. And third point is measure performance of quality. How? With your service level agreement, whatever in the contract, we have got we have got a service level agreement, but are we in compliance with that? Are we following some kind of KPIs as far as the quality is concerned? Are we having any contractual measures which we have to be accommodating? Quality methods and frameworks. Which method actually are you using? Is it Lean Six Sigma? Is it Kanban? It is something else. So whichever quality mechanism you are using, you probably will be able to readjust if required. If a more accurate system is to be built, you may like to change your method of quality, right? Audits, I have already talked a lot about it. When we do the audit, these audits could be, conducted ad hoc at any time. Well, I'm not really focusing on external teams. I would say all the audits could be ad hoc and could be scheduled, right? Whether they are
Right.
internal audits, external audit, or whatever. So ad hoc audits are surprise check. And scheduled audits are like maybe, we will conduct a monthly audit of the project, right? So monthly audit, they will come and they will look at the procedures. They will look how well you know it. They will see, have you been trained on that? And they will see, are you applying those principles? And that's what they can do. Then collection and use of information. When they collect this data from they look at your policy, they look at the how the work is happening, and then they analyze it analytically through analytical method, and then they will look at the cost of quality and quality process design. What is the cost of quality?
Cost of quality is like maintaining the audits. Is that the cost of quality?
Mm, you're partially right, but this is an official quality term, right? So you might not be aware about it. Cost of quality means, you see, there are two types of cost you could spend on quality. One is to prevent any errors of quality, right? That is a precautionary cost, right? If you spend money in that area, that is going to reduce the rejections at the end. Do you agree with me? If I'm
Yes.
cautious, if I'm proactive, I'm spending some money in correcting the processes, ultimately you will see that we will be able to more efficiently deliver goods which have almost no faults, no errors. So quality assurance serves to improve quality control. Agreed?
Agreed.
So all this money we spend in these kind of activities which could prevent disasters, this is the cost of good quality. The money we spend in this prevention, and maybe, quality audits are to be conducted. You schedule them, and this is a proactive activity. You form teams for that and all that. There is some expenditure in that. That is also cost of good quality. But when an inspection is done and things are rejected, they may go wastage cost. They may kind of be handed over to the customer with fault, and customer can put damages onto you. Warranties can be invoked, or at least at most customer will be lost. All of these are cost of bad quality, right? Okay.
Right.
Then a question arises, how much should I spend in the cost of good quality, and how much should I spend in the cost of poor quality? So there should be a balance. I'm not saying exactly equal money to be reserved for good quality and the poor quality, but I am trying to ask you to establish a balance. Maybe the need of your project is that you put more money into the cost of good quality and a little money in the cost of poor quality, right? So
Right.
balance between these two costs, well, I'm not explaining it in a lot of detail, but I'm just trying to make you aware of this concept. That is a balance between cost of good quality and poor quality that will define the overall cost of quality, right? So there is a
Right.
lot of analysis goes into it. Okay, and we understand the audits are used in hybrid projects as well to enhance or formalize the quality management complement in adaptive development approaches. Well, we do understand that even in a hybrid project, the portion lower down, which is maybe agile, they are dealing with their own quality, but naturally we have to link it with our predictive portion of the organization. So naturally, we have to formalize the quality management complement in the adaptive development approach. So there must be some link between the way the agile people are working on quality and the way the expectations at the predictive level are. Okay. What could be the quality control tools? You see, for the purposes of quality control, we have many activities to do. We have to gather data about the product. Like, we can use checklists or check sheets. We can do statistical sampling. Like, when you are doing quality control and you have 1 million items produced in a day, how is it possible that you can check 1 million items per day? So how do you do that, quality control?
You just pick out a sample out of
Take out a
that.
sample, right?
Yeah.
At random, we have pre-decided percentage. Maybe it is 5%, 2%, 10%. So maybe we take that sample out and check it randomly, right? And do some statistical analysis on it, on that sample, which will project it to the whole thing. If the situation is in control, we will accept it. And other way to gather data could be you could ask questions, run surveys if the audience is too large and probably we cannot get in touch with them for collecting the data. So probably we can ask them forms, surveys, questionnaires as if they can fill, and we analyze those questionnaires and surveys, and ultimately we deduce the basic data about the quality. Then this data has to be analyzed. For analysis purposes, we can do performance reviews or root cause analysis, which you might be, aware with the name of Ishikawa diagram or fishbone diagram. Heard about it?
Yes, but I don't remember it now.
It is like the skeleton of a fish. There is a backbone in the middle, and there are other smaller bones attached to the backbone, right? Backbone is our problem, right? And we are trying to find that why is this problem in the backbone, which smaller bone is contributing towards the main problem. So this analysis is called root cause analysis. We want to hit the right place from where the problem has originated. Like, if there is a there's a rejection in quality control, we say, okay, this thing is not right. So where is the problem? So the
Yeah.
quality assurance people are sent this data, this quality control data, and they will try to dig out the process which is faulty, and then they correct it, right? So that is used there. Root cause analysis is used there when we have the data we have gathered, and now we are trying to analyze and fix the problem, right? So we use root cause analysis or performance reviews for analyzing the data. And how do we represent the data? How do we show it to the stakeholders and others? Data representation, we have got many ways, like cause and effect diagram, which is a direct result of the root cause analysis. Well, if this happens, then these are going to be the various effects. So it's kind of a diagram which shows us various causes and their effects. Scatter diagram is a simple XY graph, x-axis, y-axis, right? If it makes a shape, any shape, that means X and Y has some correlation. If the dots I plot against X and Y are random, they are scattered on the chart, that means X has no relationship with the Y. So scatter diagram is a representation of no relationship, right? So in quality, scatter matters a lot, because if there is a pattern to the defect, then the defect will be repeated. If the defect is random, then we can be safe, because you see, there is not systematically anything is wrong. It is
Yeah.
naturally things are random, right? So within the things are within the range of tolerance, and there is a random scatter amongst them. We don't mind it. But if within the tolerance, we have exceeded the quality, exceeded beyond the quality limit by 1 millimeter, and then by 2 millimeter, and then by 3 millimeter, and every time this is increasing, there is something wrong with your process. Try to fix that. Do you understand this point?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we have control chart, which shows you the upper limit and the lower limit, right? And things must happen within that control limit. And naturally, again, I would say there is a scatter between the upper limit and lower limit, right? Which is acceptable. But anything which goes beyond the upper limit or beyond the lower limit, that would not be acceptable. That would be a rejection. But I am closely observing this control chart to see the pattern being developed between the two permissible limits, right? And I could be proactive if I can identify a pattern forming within the control chart, which will indicate some problem with some of the processes. So that is how I represent my data on control charts. Histogram, the vertical bars, you remember?
Yeah.
Vertical bars are histogram, and we could have data categorized into many areas, and I could show each area with a bar, and that is visually very easy to understand which is the biggest problem, right? The area of biggest problem will have the highest bar, right? But they are randomly shown. That's why it's a histogram, right? I mean, first bar can be very small, second bar can be very high, third bar again small. So histogram is randomly we have these categories plotted. But if we organize this in a declining order, that means if we can put the highest highest bar on the left hand side, and then the second highest, then the third highest, this type of histogram, which is ordered like that, is called a Pareto chart. Hope you understand that idea.
Yeah.
And basically, behind this Pareto chart, there is a Pareto principle, which is also called 80-20 principle.
Which principle?
80-20.
80-20. Okay.
Have you heard about it?
Yes, but I don't know exactly what that is. 80-20. Yes, so 20 maybe out of 120% of the time should be taken out for a specific activity, and then 80% time should be dedicated to perform that task. Is this
Yeah,
correct?
that could be one representation of 80-20 principle, but 80-20 principle can be applied to a lot many places. Like, so generally speaking, if you have got 100 problems or 100 defects, then if you can address the top 20% categories, 80% of occurrence will be addressed. Like you create a Pareto chart, a histogram in an ordered fashion, you say, okay, we had 10 different categories of problems, and we had total number of problems is 100. There are 10 categories. If I can address the highest two categories, that will actually contain approximately 80% of the occurrences of the problem. That means 80 problems will be addressed just by addressing 20% of the categories. I hope you understand.
Yeah.
That is 80-20 rule. And naturally, you are right. It can be applied to work. It could be applied to anything, because this is a general principle. Okay, quality control process. Here we have a example for a predictive project, like check sheets to collect data. You usually do that. Plot data on a histogram. Once you have got that data, plot that data on a histogram, apply the 80-20 rule, and use the cause-effect diagram on the chosen problem which you want to fix, which you have chosen, which is the highest bar. Choose the highest bar, address it, solve it. You have reduced, maybe just by addressing 20% categories, you have reduced 80% problems. Got it? Finally,
Yeah.
perform a scatter analysis to understand the correlation. So all the tools we have just studied, we apply them like that. Got it?
Yeah. Understood.
This is the Ishikawa, the fish thing, right? For example, you have a problem, product quality is not matching the requirement. What could be the probable causes? Probable cause, the areas where the cause could exist, you can have your own areas defined. But generally, these are good suggestions. Like the problem could be in management, could be in environment, could be in materials, could be in people, could be in process, or could be in equipment, right? But I don't ask you to restrict yourself to these 6 categories. You could create more categories or whatever categories you want, right? According to the need of your project. Now, within the management, what they have analyzed is that there must be the mini problem within the management could be the low commitment to quality, right? Equipment, we have got three subcategories defined. Equipment is causing a problem due to low maintenance, or due to old technology being used, or due to improper handling, right? No training. So, and so on and so forth. Now you will go and try to dig down where the actual problem resides, right? You say product quality not matching the requirement. Is it the management problem? You say, no, there is enough commitment, so there is no problem with the management, and so on. When you reach equipment, you say, okay, low maintenance. No, we are providing very good maintenance. There is no problem with the low maintenance. Is it old technology? No, we are working on the latest technology. So that also goes. Then improper handling. Okay, that might be the problem. Our people may not be trained to handle this new equipment, new technology, and therefore probably we are causing the problem. So that's how in a cause and effect diagram, which is called Ishikawa, or it's also called fishbone, or we can also use another, although it is saying or YY, but I would say YY is a slightly different method, right? But anyways, so we can dig down. Okay, what is YY? Yeah, or for that matter, if I say 5 Ys, what does that mean?
5. No idea.
The question why. If somebody poses a problem to you, you ask him why 5 times. 5 times, 5 questions you should ask him. After listening to a problem, you ask him why. He would explain that problem, right? Once he has explained that problem, then again ask why. He will further dig down. After 5 hours, the person who is giving you the problem will himself or herself would have reached the solution. You got it?
Yeah.
Try it out sometime. This is very interesting exercise. Ask them five times why. You say, okay, I tell you, sorry, I'm late today. Right? You ask me why. Actually, I missed the train.
Why?
Why? Because I was late. I did not wake up early. Why? Because I slept late. Why? Because
Yeah.
I was working late. Then I realized, okay, working late is my problem. If I can, kind of sleep early, probably all of this could not have occurred, right? So this is a
Right.
beautiful way of cause effect, finding the reason behind what the problem is. Anyways, done with the fishbone. Let's move on. That is also called Ishikawa because Ishikawa was a Japanese social scientist who actually introduced this concept, right? This is the scatter diagram between two parameters, process input on one side, x-axis, and quality characteristics on y-axis. If there is no relationship, it will be a scatter. If there is a relationship, there will be a line or a parabola or some kind of curve or something like that. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay, a very interesting thing. In this chart, what do you see? Is it a completely random scatter or there is an order to this madness?
If there is an order, it's declining.
It's declining. That means there is some relationship which is currently not visible to me. Currently not visible to me. If I can tweak the data a bit, probably I can see the shape. Okay. So I say,
Yeah.
okay, the quality characteristic parameter, let us take the log of that. This is a bit technical, I'm telling you, because the statisticians know what to add and what to delete, right? They say, okay, let's add a log to, take a log of those figures. 94, 96, 98, let us take a log of that thing. And whatever the figure comes, plot that. Interestingly, what you will find, the numbers will be reduced and the spread of these dots will minimize, and that will lead towards a straight line. You can do many things. You can say, okay, rather than y, let us take 1 by y. Rather than x, let's square it. So you can tweak, you can, coin with these terms, and because that would say, then I'll be able to say that, okay, a line did emerge when I took a log of quality characteristics and square of input. So there is a relationship between quality characteristic and the input, and that is log of quality characteristic is directly proportional to our river, not directly would go like from here to here. If the line is here to here, you will say that this is inversely proportional. Log of quality characteristic is inversely proportional to the square of process inputs. Got it? You found the relationship?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
But if no relationship can be found, then it will remain a scatter, and ultimately this is random. There is no problem. Anyways, this is about the scatter diagram, and this is the control chart. Well, I don't really like this diagram as it is made now, because it shows that this is the mean, right? I agree with the mean. Mean is, for example, you said the table width should be 2 feet. So the width from point 0 till here, this is 2 feet. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Let us not be confused with these terms. Forget about these terms. They are written here. Let us say that this is the control limit, the top bar and the bottom bar. Let us assume they are the control limits. Agreed?
Agree.
Let us divide these bars into three parts. That is -1, -2, -3, and +1, +2, and +3. Control limit is +3 and -3. Right? You understand?
Yeah.
Now, control is +3 or -3. That is the tolerance on the positive side and tolerance on the negative side. Anything in between is acceptable. So, if you have understood this concept, let me get back to the actual diagram on the screen. What he's trying to say here, actually, it is a bit confusing because when we divide it into three parts, we usually are talking about the control limit. So he has rather put the control limit on the first bar and specification limit on the second bar, and third bar doesn't mean anything. So I would say the control limit, this is the positive control limit, this is the negative control limit, right? And I could have further three divisions between mean and the control limit on the positive side as well as on the negative side. That means, okay, this is my control limit from here to here. And we
Yeah.
can have three divisions on the plus side and three divisions on the negative side. I think now the things are more clearer. And if you like, I can even draw that like
What do you mean by divisions?
just like these lines I'm drawing here. These are kind of indicators which will show me how much out of control I am going, right? If I am within the range, this is my range, right? My control limit is from here to here, right? This
Right.
is the actual specification. Should be like this. It should be mean. Mean is my actual specification, and anything a little plus on side, customer is ready to accept, say, up to 0.003 millimeter plus and minus. So this is 0.001 millimeter, this is 0.002 millimeter, this is 0.003 millimeter on the plus side. This is minus 0.001, minus 0.002, minus 0.003. Got it?
Yeah, got it.
Now, any reading, let me plot the readings here. Okay. I have, okay, for example, this is the reading, this is the reading, this is the reading. They are happening at random, right? So, but they are in control, within the control limit. So I am happy with it. Except for this point, uh, except for this point, from this picture, from this diagram point of view, this is out of control, right? So this will be rejected. This is out of control. This is just on the verge of the control limit. Now the reading should be random here. But if, for example, just forget about this, say it was here. So this was point here, 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 here. And then suddenly it starts moving only on the upper side.
So upper is positive and it's good, right?
Yeah, it is positive, but there is a problem here. If all the points, subsequent points are occurring on the positive side, there is a misalignment happening. Otherwise, the reading should have been random. Because it is no more random if the 7 points occur continuously on the positive side or on the negative side, concurrent points. If they occur on the positive side or the negative side, this is called 7-point rule. This is a warning. Why it is a warning? Let me draw the warning for you. For example, there is a pattern arising like this, and there is a likelihood that after some time, this is going to go out of the control limit. So this is an indication which I am getting. I took an average of the 7 points and drew a line straight out. And that shows me that we are soon going to be out of control. So this is a very good point that we should take necessary measures to improve the situation. Do you understand that theoretically?
Yeah.
Okay, good enough. If at all you want to understand it better, I can even give you a physical example as well. Do you want that?
Yes, if you can give it there, then it would be
Okay.
good.
For example, you are operating a printing press, right? And the machine you are using is just new out of the factory in a perfect condition, no wear and tear, beautiful machine, and everything is at the right place. But you see, there are moving parts in a printing machine. When the printing machine, the head of that comes down on the paper to print, uh, there is a little play in it, which is permissible. It is because it is not it's like, it could have printed at one place and the next print could be a micromillimeter right or left. You understand my point? Because it is
Yeah.
moving for such a height, it is coming down. So probably during that, there is a play in the machine, which is permissible play. And it is the next print is not exactly at the same place, but slightly slightly off. But according to our tolerance, we say, okay, if it is within a circle of 0.001 millimeter, that we are fine with it. Got it?
Yeah.
It
And
is,
then it should be back and forth, because if it is
yeah,
always 0.001 centimeter, it's going to be
yeah, exactly,
not on the
exactly.
paper.
We have one point identified, that is a mean, right? That
Yeah.
is specification. And we don't want to go beyond 0.001 millimeter on either side, all around, right? If we
Right.
go more than that, then that indicates a problem. I hope you can understand what I'm saying.
Yes, I can
So
understand.
what could be the problem? Suddenly, after use of 6 months, this machine has started going off, right? The readings are not randomly between one circle of 1.001, but sometimes it is inside, sometimes it is outside, and mostly it is outside and on the right hand side. What do you propose? What to check in the process? What has
It is.
what has gone wrong with the head of the machine?
Yeah. It should not be on the right hand side always.
Right, but you check the machine. It is tied up with screws. One of the screws might have worn out or might have gone loose. If you can replace it or tighten it, it will come back to the original position. Or if you can do an overall of the machine, it could be as good as new, right? So it has been indicated that your printing machine has started printing off, and you know it is soon going to go out of range. So immediately you take action, you find the problem, you fix the problem, and there you are. I hope you got the idea.
Yes, it's more clear now.
So remember the rule of 7, right? If 7 subsequent points, though they are within the range, but if they exist on the positive side or on the negative side, either way, it is an indication of the problem. Try to find that out and fix that problem. That is for the quality. Okay. What do we have next? This is the histogram in ordered form, in a Pareto form, right? Otherwise, we call it a histogram, but that is, they are ordered. The category with the highest number is shown on the left. Second highest category on the is the next, and then next and next and next. So what do you see here? You see there were how many problems actually? 44 plus 23, 67 plus 14, 70, 81, 90, 100. There are a total of 100 problems. Out of the 100 problems, 44 problems are due to less road traffic, right? 23
Right.
problems are due to more trees, improved landscaping, and so on. So if I can address where the 80% of the problems are 40, 60, 67, 77, approximately, if I can address these three, 80% of the problem will be over. Agreed?
Yeah.
I'm saying it generally, otherwise would have taken just these two, because this is not an accurate science. So you see, where 80% of the problems are covered, 20% of those categories are actually to be addressed. After that, if you resolve these two or three highest, biggest problems, then these are minor problems. I am not saying ignore them, but you can even ignore them if they don't matter a lot. They are too small a number and they may not be of much of impact. But anyways, uh, uh, immediately we have got an advantage. We have 80% progress made already. Remaining 20% could take a little longer, right? So basically, we have we have delivered the value. Ensure quality of processes and product. We have talked about that. Process quality, product quality. Quality is closely linked to the product acceptance criteria, and acceptance criteria is the scope, right? It is not the quality, but quality is closely associated with it. Why? We said 2 feet long, but tolerance is going to be this one. So quality tolerance is basically decided based on the specification, right? So acceptance criteria is closely linked. We deduce the quality out of the acceptance criteria or out of the specification, and it must be agreed already. So this should be included in statement of work or other design documents, right? We should, if that is not there, you may meet the acceptance criteria, but you are not meeting the quality. Update these criteria as experimentation and prioritization occur, and then validate them as part of the acceptance process. So that means if you did not fix these things earlier because you did not know how to define them, then in Agile, what we do is we learn by doing. As we do things wrong, we proceed ahead, learn lesson, and improve our acceptance criteria and keep moving ahead. I hope you got the idea. So Agile is very flexible. That lets us do what we are doing, but at the same time, it has got sustainable pace of and continuous improvement. Verify. Verification is quality. Validation is scope. When we verify the deliverable, we are accomplishing the quality. We are verifying that this deliverable is according to the specified quality. And when we are validating a deliverable, that means that is fulfilling the acceptance criteria and can now be handed over to the customer. So project team verifies deliverables based on quality standards and requirements, quality metrics, tolerances, etc. As I have defined that, verified deliverables are presented to and accepted by the customer. That is the validation. That can only occur after the verification has been done. You cannot jump to validation directly, because if you do, then it will be a poor quality product. Measure products and outputs against the project quality standards. Implement corrections and controls when quality standards are neither met nor within acceptance ranges. So that is where you apply to correct the problem. And that is why the quality control data is sent back to execution, as if the person responsible for quality assurance can try to find out where the problem is and he can fix that. As if the same problem does not occur ever again. And in Agile, we have got the concept of iteration edge. That is a special iteration or a sprint, which is designed for risk purposes, quality assurance purposes, or for clarification of certain doubts. You can say that iteration, sorry, not iteration edge, that is called spike. I was slightly wrong. The iteration which is introduced for the purposes of risk and uncertainty and kind of experimentation, that is called a spike, right? Iteration H is different. Iteration H, before the very first iteration starts, we do a iteration H, that is, we establish the rules of the game, right? And we experiment with that. Iteration H is the hardening. I think I'm again wrong. I'm again sorry. There are two types of iterations. One is iteration 0 and one is iteration H. Iteration 0 is the one which happens in the beginning of the sprint, which is for the planning purposes, right? That is not the one we are talking here. We are talking about when all the iterations within a release have been done. Then we have a iteration H, which will check the quality assurance, which will also be responsible for all the compliances. Because you remember I told you that when a release is completed, whatever has been produced so far will have to be handed over to the customer. And before we hand over everything to the customer, it should be up to the quality, it should be up to the compliance, safety, security, whatever compliance requirements, environmental compliance or whatever. So all the compliances come in iteration H. So I'm sorry, I've corrected myself many times. So now we are very clear that the very first iteration of a release may have 5, 6, 10 iterations. A release,
Yeah.
when it starts, the first we have the iteration 0, that is kind of preparatory thing. Then we do our iterations, and once all the iterations are done, before submitting those things to the customer, we do our iteration H, because we may have the acceptance criteria met for every product, every item, every user story, but the compliance requirements may have been left out. So iteration H will look at the quality assurance and quality control, and quality control has already happened, but all other compliance requirements. And once that is done, we are now ready to physically hand over the product to the customer. And this will happen in Agile after every release. But having said that, please do remember that it is not always true that we deliver physical part of a product only at the release point. Sometimes where we are continuously delivering physical products, minimum viable or minimum business increments, that could happen anytime within the release. So if that be the case, I would be doing this exercise of iteration H before I am handing over anything to the customer. Right?
Right.
For example, if it is required that I should deliver something at the end of first iteration to the customer, then at the end of the iteration, I have to do something like a hardening or compliance should be included in as part of the sprint, as if I can hand over that thing. Without this compliance thing, we cannot hand over anything to the customer.
Okay.
Anyways, so that is the verification. Evaluate and manage the risk. We can do that in all kinds of environment, predictive as well as agile. In agile, it is more comfortable because we are not talking about the big project risk. We are talking about only those small risks which are in an iteration. During this sprint, we are doing only say 10 or 15 user stories, how big a risk could be there in them? So we will identify activities and their risks there and address them during this sprint. So this is like a mini project going on within an iteration, and it is much simpler to handle. Now the question is, in Agile, how do we take care of big risks, which are project level risks? How can we take care of those? Do you have any idea?
No.
For example, when we created the product roadmap and the release map, we understand that there is a lot of uncertainty in this project, and we may not we may have the risk that maybe the certain supplies or resources which we have to procure, which we have to import from abroad, they may not reach us in time, right? So this is the overall project risk in an agile project, right? Because it is badly going to impact my iterations. They cannot start until that equipment is available. So how can I address this big risk outside of the sprint? All the work is done in
Why?
a sprint. Yes.
Yeah, why you have to address it outside of the sprint?
Okay. I like the answer, but you see, give me an alternative. How do I do that? I mean, that the relevant sprints will only have some user stories. They would not be talking about this big race, right?
Yeah,
How do I solve that?
maybe then either tackle it beforehand or maybe afterwards.
No. Naturally, it has to be tackled before that activity has to use it, right?
Right,
That equipment should be here in, it should have been available just in time, right? So what I
right.
do is I say this is a big problem. So how do I do it? I say, okay, if there is some kind of situation where there is a big risk or what you call it, there are other things also, the risks, and yeah, where there are, we don't know how to do something, and we need to do a little bit of experimentation. So what we do is we create a user story out of it, right? So this is in itself a user story. You got it?
Yeah,
So all the risks are like they can be introduced as user stories, and they could be prioritized accordingly. Like, before activity X has to start, this must have been addressed. This risk must have been addressed. So one simple method is that I can introduce those experiments and those risks as user stories, and they will be part of the backlog, and automatically they will be addressed in the iteration. The other way is then if there is some sudden thing and we did not have that thing tested, or that, uh, I mean, that user story identified, then say at the end of this iteration, whatever I was doing, I suddenly realized that before I can pick up work for the next iteration, I have to clarify certain things. I have to address certain risks. So suddenly doing that is called creating a spike. This is a uh, additional iteration within this sprint and the other next sprint. In the middle of it, we create a spike, which is like a experiment. We try to do things, try to find how this can be done. We experiment with one method, second method, third method, only doing one job, right? With two, three
right.
different methods, and whichever is the appropriate method, whatever is the answer, we conclude that. We don't have to deliver anything out of this spike. Spike is just an experiment area where we elaborate our risk, where we elaborate on some uncertainty, or we experiment on a couple of ideas. A spike may be shorter than the normal size of an iteration. On the need basis, maybe your normal size of iteration is 2 weeks, and maybe your spike could be 1 week or 3 days or 2 days, depending on the type of experiment you are trying to do. But until and unless you do that experiment, you probably cannot start the next sprint. So now we have got the concept of iteration 0, spike, and iteration H. Iteration 0 is started as the first iteration of a release, right? And
Right.
actually, we don't address anything here. We just put things together here, right? Spike can happen anytime within the activities, within this, uh, between the regular sprints. Wherever there is uncertainty, we can introduce a spike. We can determine a time for that experiment, and we can do that experiment as if we can get, we are armed with the answer to the question, and we can get into the next sprint, right? And hardening sprint is the last sprint of the release, where we put everything together and we comply with all the requirements as if things can be handed over. So these are the three major concepts. I told you how the risk is handled in Agile. As far as the predictive is concerned, you already must be knowing it, because in predictive, the system is quite methodological. Although it is much complicated than the Agile one, but that is kind of written principle. You should have these approaches, these methodologies, and you must identify the risk as soon as possible. You must plan. A lot of work is there. You must,
Yeah.
analyze the risk and then create a response and monitor and control the response. That is the normal predictive way of doing it. Okay, optionally, can you identify some typical risk management practices or use cases for each approach? Can you give me a sample of a risk for predictive and for agile?
I can do it for the agile.
Okay, go ahead.
But predictive, then I think in predictive, so I have a question here. In predictive, shouldn't everything be decided beforehand, or it should be?
Yes, it is. It is. We develop the risk management plan and the whole of the project plan in the beginning, but as far as risk is concerned, although we create a management plan, a risk response plan, everything upfront in the beginning, but risk is an uncertainty which has a likelihood of happening anywhere. So we might not have been able to identify all the risks upfront. That is humanly not possible, right? So the identification and analysis of the risk and creation of that response plan keeps happening throughout the project until the project has ended, right? Same is true for identification of stakeholders. That is also a continuous process. Although there is a stakeholder management plan created, but that is based on the current stakeholders which we could identify. Similarly, risk management plan is based on the current risks we could identify. But then we can't close the book. We can keep it open, both of these stakeholder and identification and risk identification, especially the risk identification, because that is, we are very sensitive about the risks, right? So
Right.
whenever and wherever we could identify a new risk, we will immediately analyze and put it into the response plan. So far, so good?
Yes.
Okay. For monitoring the risk, these are some of the guidelines. Enable decision making based on current information about overall risk exposure and individual risk. Well, I'll talk about it. What is risk exposure? What is overall risk exposure? What are individual risks and things like that? But you see, we must set those parameters that, okay, anything bigger than this is dangerous for me. No, I have to deal with it. I have to take certain actions. But if it is small enough, I can say, okay, no problem at all. I can bear it. Although it is bad, it is I did not expect it, but well, it is fine with me, right? For example, you are working and you are being disturbed by a fly, a single fly bothering you, does it stop you from working?
No.
You can just wave it away from right and wave it away from left. It may be a little hindrance, but you are maintaining your concentration on your work. What if I lose three flies on you? You will be more
Then it's
disturbed,
gonna be tough.
right?
Yeah.
But you will be more disturbed. Your work will be affected. You will be slow, but probably you can survive.
Yes.
So there is a limit to your tolerance. How many would be too much?
10, 20.
Okay. If there are 10, 20 flies, you have to stop working. You have to take some action. You have to address the issue. You have to either kill
Yeah.
them or no, do something about it, right?
Yes.
So that is exactly what is called the tolerance, the risk. How much risk exposure is okay with the organization? At the organization level, how big-hearted my organization is, how large my organization is, and how much risk matters to them, right? How much risk does not matter to them. They say, okay, this is normal. This happens all the time to us. We don't even consider it a risk. So which level of risk exposure is more than enough for them? This we have to determine. That is the basic parameter, right? I'll talk about that. Second, continuously monitor status, probability, and impact of every risk you have identified, right? Identify your new risks, reassess. And you see why I'm saying identify new risks, because we already have in the risk management plan identified all possible risks. But now, during the life of the project, new situations have happened and new risks have, we realize that new risks could be there. And identify those new risks, put them into the current risk register, reassess them, close outdated risks. So, because we are in monitoring and control, so we are basically also having a look at the already identified risks. We are processing them, right? And if any risk has occurred, so we take action on that. If any risk has not occurred, we close down the resources on that. We don't want to waste resources. You see, when I was constructing the roof of the hall, it should not have rained. The risk was it should not rain. But if it rains, that work will be delayed, right? And I took some actions for that. Okay, if it is cloudy, then I can do these steps, and I can still be able to construct. But it did not rain. Risk did not happen, and we did construct the roof of the building, right? So it is no more a risk. The people you have already committed on monitoring that risk, if you don't spare them from here, then they will be the waste of resource, because risk is no more. You understand that point?
Yeah.
So this is also the responsibility of the person monitoring the risk to close down outdated risks. They are not going to happen, and if at all they happen, they don't matter to us anymore, because we did our job for which that was the risk, right? So
Right.
we don't care, right? So close down those risks and close down all the resources attached to them. Perform on a regular basis. This is a continuously we are doing it, and continuously improve your risk effectiveness. Just by identifying new risks and doing all these things, you are able to improve your risk effectiveness. Whatever the risk management plan you created earlier, that is being continuously improved by this process. Some questions to ask: are project assumptions still valid? This question you should be asking yourself all the time, because project assumptions are home to risks. You know, I did not have data of something, and I assumed, okay, to the best of my knowledge, this thing will cost not more than this much. So I put a cost to it, which is an assumption, which is not an actual figure. And I calculated everything based on that figure. And this assumption may go wrong. If there is a risk that the assumption I have taken might be wrong, right? And because still I don't have the data, so I will treat it based on assumption, right? What happens is that after some time, certain facts surface, and I exactly know the price in the market and how much will it cost me, right? Then, and that is different from my assumption. So what should I do? I should remove the assumption because it is no more valid. And now a fact is available, so the risk situation automatically dissipates, right?
Right.
Okay, second question. Have risks changed or been retired? That is a point which I made here. Close the outdated risk. Retire them if they are not happening. They have not happened. Don't waste your resources on them. And if the situation of risk, when you identified the risk, you thought that it can damage us this much, but later you realize it cannot damage you that much. It can damage you much lesser, right? So in light of the latest knowledge, you can change the status of the risk. And you should. Third question, are risk management policies and procedures being followed? Naturally, that is a question for you. And you must have, just like we have the quality policy, there must be a risk policy in your organization as well. So that is kind of a governance to you. Organization wants you, only those organizations which are very conversant with the, very concerned with the risk management, they are doing a business which is too risky. Probably they have this kind of policy. So you must follow that policy if that exists. And contingency reserves being modified. What are contingency reserves? The money you have kept for dealing with the risk, right? So if the contingency reserves been modified, that means you are updating the details, new risks have been identified, and contingency reserves are likely to be, revised all the time, right? There is a related term, like we have the contingency reserves, there is something called a contingency plan. Can you
Yes.
try to differentiate between the two?
Contingency plan is more of a plan if, for example, like a business continuity plan, like how we are going to manage our day-to-day activities. And contingency reserves are more of, like, as you mentioned, the reserves or the
Mhm.
funds
But
that are kept aside.
why the word contingency is common in both of these?
Because that's really in need. Or it's not like if anything fails, if
It
there
may
is
or
a
may
risk.
not have. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to keep money for something. So just like I said, you have to keep money for something, for plan, you have to keep a plan for something. An alternative plan. An alternative plan. That is the contingency plan, which you usually call plan B, right? Now, did we talk about the difference between risk and an issue? Remember that?
We already talked about it last week.
Okay.
Yes.
The interesting part is contingency reserve has everything to do with risk. Contingency plan has everything to do with the issue. When a risk has occurred and it has become an issue, then we have to alter our plans, or maybe we have already prepared plan B. We have to converge towards that. That is called contingency plan. But that will only occur when a risk has occurred and now it is an issue. So to handle an issue, we may have contingency plans. And actually, to do that contingency plan, we must have funding available as well. It is not, a contingency plan is not funded out of the contingency reserve. Contingency reserve is only for the risks. Got it?
Got it. Yeah.
Do we need a risk audit? What do you say? Your opinion?
Yes, it should be.
Not only the risk audit, but we should have a continuous monitoring our eye on the process of risk management. Each and every risk which is identified, we are looking at it with a microscope. Whether this risk is about to come, it is coming my way, it is this much kilometers away from me. So you have to keep an eye on that. So risk audit is an obvious thing. As if we don't relax on the risk management and we are doing the right risk processes. Somebody should come to visit us and check how efficiently are we doing the risk management process. So that audit is going to happen in monitor risk process. Review your reserves. Reserve analysis establishes the amount of contingency and management reserves needed. Self-explanatory. It is performed throughout the project. So reserve analysis is a process which should keep happening until the project ends, right? Because things are changing, change requests are coming. So you should always keep a tab on your reserves. Compares amount remaining to determine if adequate. So how much reserves are left in the archive and how much we have consumed. If we are running short of reserve, then we should put it up with a reason to the decision makers, as if they can find out what is going wrong. And maybe if nothing is going wrong and everything is natural, then probably they may reallocate more money to us. May be communicated with a burn down chart. Burn down chart is what? Out of the total work, how much has been left so far? What is the undone work? So undone work on the very first day of project is the total work of the project. Maybe by the end of 1 month, our undone work is whatever we have done so far, that if that can be subtracted from the total work, this is my undone balance is this much. So every month our graph will come down, right? It will start from
Right.
the highest point and will keep coming down. That's why it is called burn down. Just like a candle is big one, and when we burn it whole night, then it keeps coming down. It's burnt out,
Yeah.
right? So that the work we have done is burnt out. The main issue is the work which is left to be done, right? The remaining part of the candle we can use the next day as well. That's why we use the term it is burn down. Risk register, as you already understand, we have talked about it. Risk register is where all the risks are listed down, and I've shown you the samples for that as well. Okay, what next? Compliance as the highest priority. I think we have talked a lot about compliance.
Yes.
Test and validate deliverables, identify authorized stakeholders to approve, remediate compliance issues to avoid negative impact on the timeline, cost overruns, and increased risk. So these are the things. Yes, compliance is important from this point of view because the risks to the compliance are to be dealt with separately. Although they are also risks, but compliance risks are, we must be more careful about. So benefits of compliance sign-off, early warning of potential threats to compliance, and ability to capture variances and take action. We also examine the business value, whatever we were, we did talk about business value in the second lecture, and we understand the business value, we have to generate this value, right? So keep connecting with your business acumen Keep looking at the alignment of your project with the organizational objective. If at any point in time you feel that we are going out of sync, you must highlight that issue. You keep examining your business value or your business case, and as soon as you understand that we are not on the correct path, maybe the project was feasible then, but now it has become completely infeasible in due to the changing requirement, and therefore you could recommend that we will not be able to generate the business value we were set out to do. So therefore, in the current situation, project is suggested to be closed down. So that is a big decision which would come out of the business value. And basically, I would relate it with the business acumen. Questions? While you are working on a SWOT analysis for a risk response, a team member asks you to show them how it is done. Which type of coaching is this? Read it again. You are working on a SWOT analysis for a risk response. So you are trying to find a risk response you have created, and you are trying to find what are the strengths of this response, weakness of this response, what are
It
further
should
opportunities.
be, yes, it should be informal, but I think this question is repeated. The
Probably,
last class we
if
also
this is,
did that
oh, yes, yes.
similar.
If this is
Yeah, it
repeated,
should be
then
informal.
probably all the remaining questions would be repeated.
The team
Is
asks you if I can lead an estimating meeting, which coaching should be. We can just quickly do it
But
if
you see,
we
we have done
yeah,
it. We have done
facilitating.
this question.
Okay.
Actually, we have done all of these questions. They are being repeated. What
Yeah, they're
about,
being repeated.
yeah,
Right.
we have done them all. Okay, we are done with this section. Probably last section in this chapter is manage project issues and impediment. So we can have a break. Probably, is it a long break time or a short break time?
Short is also fine.
But if you have to go eat something, probably we can have a 20-25 minutes break.
Sure, that's fine by me. And will we be able to cover everything today, or do we
Yeah,
need another one?
we are on slide 89, and
Yes.
probably there are 110 or 20 slides, right? So
Yes.
30 more slides here, and I think there are 30 more slides on the lesson 6.
Okay.
So we will
Lesson
be able.
six. Yeah, lesson six. I checked. If I'm not wrong, there was 60.
Which one?
Lesson six.
60 slides, but they are just conclusion slides. They're just
Ah,
conclusion
okay.
slides. So there's nothing much of meat in it that we can do faster.
Okay.
Anyways,
Yeah,
so
but
let us.
no. Yeah, you're right. There are 41 slides in lesson six.
Yeah,
So yeah.
exactly. But they're just closing remarks type of slides. They are not
Okay.
really,
Perfect.
they matter.
Then I
Okay,
will see you after the break.
okay. How much time should I set it to? 25 minutes?
25. Yeah, 25 minutes. Fine.
25 minutes. Here it goes. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thanks. Bye. Hello.
Yeah, welcome back. Okay, the next portion is about managing project issues and impediments. Suppose we have already talked about the agile role where the issues and impediments and all these things are ultimately the responsibility of the team lead or the scrum master, right? But naturally, uh, even in a predictive environment, we do have to face with issues and impediments. And for that, I would like to refer to our discussion on risk and issues, right? So just look at that because how we deal with issues in a predictive project, that issues are primarily the risks materialized, right? And the issues, they are the negative risks which have materialized because positive risks become benefits and they are not a problem for us. Issues are a problem and there could be other means of problems and we have got problem solving skills and all impediments are there. So we will deal with them in a methodological way. Well, all these terminologies like issues, impediments, obstacles, blockers, they are, interchangeably being used specifically in uh, agile as well as predictive in seventh edition. Impediments and blockers are just synonymous. They both mean an obstacle that prevents the team from achieving its objective. So almost, there's one and the same thing. Anyways, moving ahead. Uh, issue, by definition, is a condition or situation that may have an impact on the project objective. So anything which could somehow uh, disturb or matter to one of the project objectives. Can you tell me what are the project objectives?
Project objective or project goals? What we are trying to achieve with the project?
No, from the point of a project, we have got three project objectives: scope, time, and cost. So whatever
Okay.
objective you define, that must be defined in accordance with scope, time, and cost. So when PMI refers to project objectives, that means the agreed scope, time, and cost, right? If there is a problem, if there is an issue in not meeting your project objectives, that is called an issue, right? An impediment is an obstacle, it's a hurdle in our way, which is us to achieve our objectives, right? They are also called blockers, obstacles, or impediments, right? Issue is a materialized risk which can impact the project objective. In predictive project, predictive teams use the term issue log. So they don't use the word, kind of impediment or something. They don't know about it. They use the term issue log. And as I have taught you, risks when they become issues, we create a list of all the issues. Previously, we had a list of all the risks. There is a risk log, a risk register, we call that. And when a risk materializes, we add that thing into a issue log, right? So they have a different lingo. In adaptive, as we understand, that this is the job of the scrum master, the team lead, and adaptive teams tend to use an impediment log. They have a equivalent to issue log. They call it an impediment log, and that is kind of a information radiator. This is written on top, on a chart, all the obstacles for today. So the team lead is supposed to take note of that and supposed to, remove those impediments by the time team wants to make use of that. So this is how we define it. The relation between risk and issues I have already disclosed to you. I hope I do not need to do it again. Issues could be in any area. What areas are prone to issue? So what are the areas which are prone? Risk management ultimately results in an issue. There could be issues from coming from the schedule, cost, project variance analysis, scope change control, procurement, communication, quality. So all of these areas might be sources of the issue. But one thing you must realize, uh, all of these areas are also sources to the risk. And risk is related to the issue because when a risk materializes, it becomes an issue. So it is not only the matter of including issues in an issue log, but keeping an eye on the risks because risks become issues. So, anyways, there could be, from that perspective, if I say there could be risks to the schedule, risk to the cost, risk to the scope, anything which is happening. So, there are the main areas: scope, schedule, and cost. And then there could be procurement risk and communication risk and quality risk and all that. So, all the major items. This could be a issue log in front of you. It says issue number, what description of the issue, when was it opened, when is it due? Because generally speaking, well, your organization may have its own rule. Whenever an issue is opened within 15 days max, it should have been assigned to someone. I mean, the due date for resolution is 2 days max. Then what is the priority of this issue? High, medium, low, what? And who will own the issue? Every issue should have an owner. Somebody should be made responsible for that issue. So that is the person who is going to respond by due date. What is the response? So far, there is no response still to be determined. Well, we are working on issue number 26 and 27. All of these issues are still open. And then we have certain comments. For the first truck strike, tasks are on critical path. This is our comment here. So this shows the high importance of that. Glazing service down. Looking into another supplier. Josie Bino dissatisfied. Risks board withholding operating funds. So who is Josie Bino in our case study? Josie Bino is probably the sponsor. So if sponsor is not satisfied, they may withhold our tax, our funds. But anyways, so this is how these issue logs are created. Discover and solve impediments using Scrum. Well, in Scrum, the thing is quite easy to do. We discover the problem, we solve it. The Scrum Master is responsible for finding a resolution. Now, you see, everything else, the work of the project, team is fully responsible and accountable. They will do everything. But as far as the problems and causes and issues are concerned, and impediments, obstacles, they are the duty of the Scrum Master. Often involve dealing with conflict where somewhere in the organization. So it's a coordination issue. And then resolution can help the organization grow in agility. If sort out these things, organization may become more agile. Remove impediments. Track impediments, reprioritize product back, use daily stand-up meeting, be a servant leader, just normal. These are the things must be for these things. Going into the detail, these are the questions. Which of the following is the best example of a blocker? Team cannot decide when to schedule the next iteration review. Is it a blocker? The demonstration is not for the iteration review. Is it a blocker? Clearance from another team to use content for the demo won't be ready within the current iteration. And last option is the demonstration fails in front of the product owner during the iteration review. What do you think? Which is the blocker?
D, demonstration fails, or C? I'll go with the C.
C is the right answer. Okay, which conflict management approach is best suited for a situation where both parties refuse to give in on their position?
Given on their position, force direct.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It is basically
Compromise.
they have to get into a. We read about um, two methods. One was compromise and consent, otherwise consensus, right? Consensus was the best option, but this was the second best option. Well, we are not withdrawing. None of the parties are withdrawing, but they are discussing, compromising, right? But
Okay,
we
yeah,
are not.
compromising.
Yeah, we are not withdrawing, right? So it is very few, but they argue. So here we are arguing. Which is true about conflict in projects? Too much conflict reflects poorly on the team. Too much conflict reflects poorly on the project manager. Conflict is inevitable. Conflict is to be addressed only when it disrupts the project. What do you say?
Conflict is inevitable. C.
Very good. Very good. Rest everything is trash. This is the right answer. Conflict is inevitable. The universal truth. Product owner is unavailable to decide about a product feature. What is this considered? Is it a work request? It is an impediment? Is a backlog refinement? Is a priority? What?
Impediment.
It is an impediment, definitely. Okay. There is another topic about project changes. Let's do it. Okay, what is here? Causes of project change. Why does the causes? What are the causes for bringing changes into the project? Maybe we have got the estimates we have made. They may not be accurate, and that is quite natural because we were making assumptions. It might not be possible that all the all the estimates are accurate, or for that matter, if in agile environment, our accurates can be absolutely all of them could be slightly wrong. We don't mind it at all. But yes, whenever there is a correction to the estimate, more clarity comes, like, continuous, like, what do you call it? Progressive elaboration. So naturally, things will change. We have to revise our plan. Or if there are new regulations, new laws, new regulations, or if we have missed requirements, specifications have changed by the customer, or any of these also causes the changes in adoptive projects. So be a change maker and change leader, right? So as a change maker or a change leader, what do you need to do? Be a diligent and respectful, caring steward. Well, okay, look at that. I was just looking for this slide. Probably we did not cover it. Did we or did we not?
This is just appearing right now, so.
These are the 12 principles of project management, right? And change is important to it, and let's find out where the change is. If you want, I can go through all of the 12 points, but where the change is.
In every point?
Well, the last point is specifically about change. Enable change to achieve the envisioned future state. Right? So basically, we know we have a target, we have to have a direction towards, and whatever we plan may not really be accurate. So as and when anything needs revision, we can change that. Why not? The objective is to envision the future state and to reach there, to achieve that future state. And for that, we may correct our mistakes all the time. So change is one of the 12 rules of project management, principles of project management. Uh, Other principles are like, be a diligent, respectful, and caring steward, recognize, evaluate, and respond to system interactions, navigate complexity. All of them are important, but I'm not going to explain them all. Create a collaborative project team environment, like we do in our agile and otherwise also even predictive teams could also be collaborative. Why not? Demonstrate leadership behavior, optimize risk responses, effectively engage with stakeholders, tailor based on context, embrace adaptability and resiliency. And when we say that, we are opening the doors for agility. Focus on value. Remember business acumen, business value, business need, business case. So that was very important. So always keep your focus on business value. And if we are out of sync, then probably may have to challenge the existence of the project. Build quality into processes and deliverables. Naturally, we have discussed the topic of quality. And lastly, enable change to achieve envisioned future state. This is the one which we were referring to. Monitor the external and business environment. You remember that we have studied, we have got external environment, we have got organizational process assets, we have got enterprise environmental factors. So specifically the external business environment, which external enterprise environmental factors, we can analyze that by these methods, which we have studied already. So here, our responsibility is to keep an eye, monitor all the external environment. If something is changing, we have to remain vigilant for the threats to the external environment, constantly update the risk register and thresholds, and use tools like PESLE analysis, TCOP analysis, VUCA analysis, whichever relates to you. Change for predictive projects, we, as probably I defined it to you earlier, in predictive projects, we have got a process called integrated change control, right? And what did I say? What does it do? Integrated change control basically is the process where everybody who needs something to change, they submit their change requests to integrated change control, and integrated change control presents them in front of the change control board, where all the change requests are processed and ultimate decision is given on the fate of each of the change requests. And ultimately, the artifacts are managed, are updated, the documents are updated, new version numbers or whatever, according to the change suggested. Naturally, if there is a change in the project, the documentation may also be revised. So they all will be updated. All the relevant artifacts affected by this change will be ultimately updated. But that will only happen if the change request has been approved by the change control. Change control board may decide not to approve the change request and send it back to the project manager. Then we have in Agile feedback and development cycle, where we have the product owner role, who is basically the key decision maker, and he runs the product backlog. Everyone helps him, the team members, the team, in the refinement of the backlog. And for that matter, we would say continuously. They keep doing that continuously. After every sprint, the team goes back to the product backlog, helps the product owner in sorting out and refining and grooming the product backlog. So that is their responsibility. So change is happening automatically, naturally there. Use demonstrations to understand the requirement. No changes allowed during a sprint. If the items or the user stories you have picked up to do in a sprint, nobody can change them until they are done. But those things which were lying in the product backlog, they are completely open to change all the time. This is the general process for change. Change request form must be there, and whomsoever is the initiator of the change, it could be anyone, any stakeholder from within the team, outside of the team, anyone can request a change. The change request, when it is filed by an initiator, it is added to a change request log, right? It is recorded in a register, change request number this, and this is the summary of that would be written down there. Then it passes a filter, right? If it is appropriate request, it will be accepted. Otherwise, it will be rejected, right? And we see what are the deliverables. Are the deliverables being affected by this? If they are not affected, we will again reject it. If the deliverables are being affected, then we prepare an impact statement, how much impacted. If the impact is minor, project manager can take his own decision. He can review the change request all by himself or herself, and he can, he has the authority for minor impacts. As far as the moderate impact changes are concerned, project manager and the stakeholders review it. They have to review it, all of them, and collectively they decide. So in a way, this is a matter where change control board may be involved, or it could be an informal process, but anyway, stakeholder review is anyways required. If it is a major change, then project manager, sponsor, and stakeholder all review it. Anyways, whatever are the changes to be authorized, those are communicated to all concerned. Documents are updated, and then we send it to this change for execution. And then we read the project. I mean, all the documentation which needs to be updated, they are being updated. So this is generally the flow of change management process, specifically in a predictive project, not in an agile project. I told you in agile, the mechanism is completely different. Okay, what are the actions? Again, in predictive projects, what could be the different types of actions? The change request could be of 4 types. Those change requests which are like corrective action, if there is something which has wrongly done or being wrongly done, how to fix that? That is called a corrective action. Preventive action could be something which has not been done so far. It is, but we assume that when this job will be done, we will have this something which could happen, which should be prevented, right? So this is a proactive step. Corrective step is when a mistake has happened, we are making some corrective action. Preventive action, we are taking the corrective action even before the thing has happened. There is a high likelihood something will happen, so we have taken on those precautions. Defect repair is when a bad deliverable has been, the deliverable has been rejected by our own quality control, and we have to fix it. So we have to rework on it. Naturally, more expenses, more team time is required for that. So it does not conform. It is not acceptable. So a change request could be for defect repair. And a change modifies a project baseline. Naturally, whichever kind of a change it is, change is something. Remember, I have said it earlier as well. If you have to move a change request, then you must justify it does impact any one of the project objectives at least. And what are those project objectives? Scope, time, and cost. If they are not being impacted, it would be treated as a minor change, right? The project manager has all the authority. Rather, if I were there, I would not even like it a change. It is not a change request at all, because change request is defined by something which could impact scope, time, and cost, right? Yes, I agree that if the authority has been delegated for minor changes to the project manager, he can handle it all by himself, as it was shown in the earlier slide. But generally, I will not consider anything as a change request which does not impact the project baseline. So that is not even a minor matter. That is not an issue at all, right? So what to change? So let me give you an example that there is a person who has been assigned for some job, and at the last moment, he got sick when it was time to do the job. But I had an alternative person available without any financial effect, without any time delay, nothing happened. And I changed the person. I did change the person, but it was no change in scope, no change in time, no change in cost. Therefore, it was not a change at all. Right? That is probably my prerogative. I can do that. Change control system and change control board, forms, tracking methods, processes, approval levels, all are defined in the change control system, which is part of change management plan you develop. And who gives the approval for these changes? One approval level may be the change control board, which handles some change requests based on the approval levels documented in the change management plan. So change management tells us that this is the level for the change control board, this is the level for the sponsor, level for the project manager, and things like that. So we have been introduced to the terms change control system, change control, change management plan, change control board, and so on, right? So I hope this is self-explanatory. Then coming to managing contract changes. Now, you see, whatever we were talking about is the overall project management change request, which we have to move to the change control board through the integrated change control process. What about the changes suggested by the, the contractor, who is our subcontractor in a way, and they want to change anything in their contract? So naturally, they will seek permission from us because we are the signatory with them. And if they want to change anything, we will be the approving authority. I mean, my organization or whomsoever signed this, maybe the project manager, maybe the project sponsor, they could be the authority for the contract changes, right?
Right.
And we can resolve problem there. Work with vendor to manage contracts. Work with partners in the organization, like your own departments, procurement, finance, functional, all of them, and take action within the project manager or team domain threshold. Legal problems that are serious enough to cause issues may need expert help. So that contract management is more of a formal kind of a thing, and we have to kind of, maybe sometimes the arbitration is done, sometimes the lawyers are hired for resolving issues and things like that. That is more of a legal thing. Control change control system used to collect, track, duplicate, and communicate changes to a contract. Might be a component of integrated change control, or maybe a separate organizational system. Maybe there is a contract department in your organization which deals with all contract related issues. So in that way, project manager may not be bothered about it. But I would say, because this is your contract, you may get the expertise from the contract department, but you should not uh, ignore it. But they have no understanding, the contract department have no understanding about the intricacies of your project. So you should be part of the team, right? But anyways, organization can handle it. Specifically dedicated change control changes, specifies contract change, and includes documentation, dispute resolution process, and approval levels. These are the types of contract changes. Okay. Administrative changes are what? These are non-substantive changes of just the administration nature. It should be written like this. Heading should be in bold and things like that. Administrative nature thing, they do not really matter. They are just for beautification or administrative purposes. Then there are modifications to the contract. These are substantive changes to the contract requirement or product requirement. So they must be renegotiated. Supplemental agreement. What is a supplemental agreement? In addition to the existing contract, to establish another additional contract for some additional work, which is not a part of the main contract. So an additional agreement related to the contract, but negotiate separate. Maybe we are negotiating with the contractor is the same, but it has to be separately negotiated. Constructive changes. Changes made by the buyer through action or inaction. The buyer, through their action or inaction, they can bring changes that are constructive.
Okay, a question about supplemental agreement. It can be any other agreement, right? Which
Yeah,
is
it could
also
be
in the
SLA, it
form
could
of.
be any other
Okay.
MOU, it could be anything. It's
Okay.
not necessarily
Yeah.
a contract, but it could be a contract as well. Okay,
Yeah.
then there is a component which is called termination of contract. Vendor, if the vendor defaults or buyer needs changes, in that case, the contract can be terminated and there is a specific document, right? That is initiated. And that could be, if your contractor is not performing well and it is, continuously is defaulting, then probably you can kill the project anytime and maybe you plan something else. Or if the need of the project is no more, like it is no more feasible, then also terminate a project. Legal concept, warranty, you understand?
Yeah. Waiver also breach of contract, and then the last point says, and that's the letter.
You know them all?
Not the last one.
Okay. Cease and desist means that the contractor is doing some kind of illegal activities and you want them to stop in their tracks. You issue a cease and desist notice or a letter, which means you stop them from doing everything and all the illegal activities they can immediately stop doing and in future desist from doing them again, right? Often used as a warning of impending legal action. You say, in a way, I am saying that I am not taking you to the court, but it is unlawful what you have done. You should immediately stop doing it and never do it again. And if you do it again, we will take you to the court. Got it? It's kind of a warning. Process, educate, and communicate claims. How we process the claim, there is a mechanism, contested changes and potential constructive changes, including the lack of agreement on compensation or lack of that change occurred. So there might be a lot many situations where both parties are not on the same page and they have got some kind of disagreement. To resolve such issues, we have alternate dispute resolution mechanism, in which a third party is nominated to educate your matter, and that could be a judge or a bench of judges who listen to your case and then decide in the favor of one party. This could be settled through some kind of negotiation that is always preferred. Before you can take the thing to the alternate dispute resolution, you should try your level best by doing it in-house. Both parties can find a consensus, can negotiate, and the litigation should be considered as a last resort, because in business, litigation is not considered to be something good. Update project management in light of all the things you have studied for, changes to the scope and time and cost and all that. You update all things relevant to the three baselines: scope, time, and cost, and naturally the team assignments and all, and update all the artifacts where required. Question? Stakeholders is conversing with you regarding a potential change to a specification, which best exemplifies active listening by you. Staring intently into the eye. Pay close attention to the
Number
behavior.
C.
Yes,
C.
see.
Asking relevant. C.
Follow-up question. Yes, you are right. During you may play close with the emotions of yourself and others as the discussion gets heated. Which interpersonal skill are you leveraging? Emotional intelligence, meeting management, leadership, influencing.
Emotional intelligence.
Okay. Okay, we are done with lesson number 5 and deserve a break.
Okay.
So how long?
12 minutes.
How many minutes?
12.
12 minutes. Make it longer. 15 minutes.
Okay. Okay, perfect. We can do that.
Okay. I will just start the break.
See you then in 20 minutes.
Here it starts. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I don't know what is the problem here. Just a moment. Okay, there is a window on my screen which is not going away. Just a moment.